The most important meal of the day, second breakfast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another Second Breakfast podcast. I'm Andy Roth alongside Phil Duvall. Say hi, Phil.
Hi, Andy.
And it's Tuesday, the day we don't know what to do with, but I'm actually really excited for what we're doing today. Phil, you may have heard of a little movie production company called Pixar.
Nope, never heard of them.
Nope.
I am not an artsy-fartsy guy.
Right. Pixar. They made The Great Escape and The Deer Hunter. And they make kids movies.
You've been on such a huge deer hunter kick lately.
Because by saying it, I never have to watch it again. It's like a talisman against it.
I'd go the other way, where if I don't say it, then I don't have to think about it. It's like we have these bugs in California called June bugs, and they are so gross.
I know them.
And they show up in July. They don't ever show up in June, by the way. And my mom and I had a rule when I was growing up that we never talked about them, because we thought that if you didn't say anything about them, they wouldn't show up.
Sure.
One year we never mentioned them, and we never saw one, and it was awesome.
That is amazing. Phil, I have to be honest with you.
Tell me.
I don't know that that's an option for me with The Deer Hunter. I feel like I watched it and it just replaced a hopeful part of my soul. Like that little part of my soul that was hopeful is not.
No, you're gonna come over one day, and I'm gonna be like, "Hey, I'm glad you're here, Deer Hunter," and you're gonna be like, "No."
That's possible. So, Pixar, they make basically the best movies ever. I mean, just ever, you know?
I think they do. I recently decided that my favorite genre of film might be the cartoon, which is... I'm not like... the funny thing is I'm not like a horror movie person, where horror movie people will be like, oh, my favorite genre is horror, and then they'll watch some god-awful horror and be like, oh, that was terrible.
Because they like the genre. Right.
I have no interest in... I get offended by bad cartoons.
Sure.
Like, I saw the preview for Turbo and complained about it for 10 minutes on this show last week. That's how much I got offended. I won't.
No.
But I feel like a good cartoon... It's like when I grew up on The Simpsons, before The Simpsons sold its soul and became terrible, that what a good cartoon is capable of doing something, that reaching your imagination and reaching a group of people in a way that, I don't know, that nothing else can. I don't know why the best satire on all of television today is South Park, a cartoon that centers on fart jokes, but it is.
I think that's right, and I think what you're dealing with, and this might not be all of it, it might be all of it, it might be none of it, but I feel like one of the things you're dealing with is film is sort of a regrettably naturalistic medium. You know what I mean? Like, the camera sees something, and even if it's, James Cameron making Pandora, a completely made-up world, it sees what it sees, right? And so while impressionistic movies can be made, they're kind of tough. They're kind of tough.
Yes.
But cartoons don't have that, and so they can be as realistic as you want them to be, or as impressionistic as you want them to be. And I think even with movies like WALL-E, which is, there are the opening scenes of that, you could be watching like a filmed thing with like an actual robot that they made. There are photorealistic shots in that first third of the movie. But you don't have to be. Like, you don't have to do that. And I like that we're doing what we're doing. We still haven't told the viewers, the listeners, what we're doing yet, and I want to keep it that way for just one more second. They released their latest movie this past weekend, Monsters University, a prequel to Monsters, Inc. And I have zero complaints about this movie. I just have zero complaints. But Phil, you know this, and I'll tell Second Breakfast Nation. When I texted you, because you texted me because you saw it before I did. It's delightful, and I texted you back like, just lovely. It was great, and you said nowhere near their best work. And I said, yeah, I agree with that. and yet I have no complaints. And so
Yeah.
that should tell you that should tell everybody what I feel about their best work. And so I rewatched what we were going to talk about today, and that thing that we are talking about is this. It is the montage, not at the very beginning, but very, very close to the beginning of the movie Up, that tells the love story between Carl and Ellie.
Yep.
And I cried like a scalded baby when I saw it in the theaters.
Yeah.
And that time, compared to when I watched it this morning, it was as if I didn't cry at all. That's how hard I cried today for the duration of it. I mean, Montage University, I have no complaints. Up actually, I think, makes you a better person.
I agree. I think the funny thing, there was a point there where Pixar was making each movie better than the last on a level that really was, on some level, unsustainable.
Yes. Yeah, agreed.
Just because, seriously, how many movies in a row can you make that are going to be the best thing ever happened? How do you do that over and over and over and over again? And when you look at the Pixar filmography, I don't know, but that movie came on the heels of, I believe, The Incredibles.
Yep.
And Monsters University was
Up,
like you said.
WALL-E first.
Oh, WALL-E, then Up. That's what it was.
Okay.
Then Toy Story 3.
That's right.
And then so I think they had like two arcs where they made Toy Story and A Bug's Life fine, and then Toy Story 2 was better than Toy Story or A Bug's Life. Monsters Inc. I thought was better than those two, and then Finding Nemo was just
a treasure.
Right.
A treasure.
And then The Incredibles came out.
Yes.
And I was like, well, then there's nowhere to go from there. And then they made Cars, and I was like, see?
Right.
Cars was, I thought, incredibly disappointing.
Yep.
Ratatouille is the one that a lot of people love. I really like it.
Okay.
I really like it.
Okay.
It is a really well done, beautifully shot movie with a lot of great moments. I wouldn't turn it off. If it was on TV, I'd watch it.
I tip over into love. I do. I'm one of those that love it.
But WALL-E then just crushed it, and then Up, and then Toy Story 3. And that, to me, was, those three in a row are probably, I think, the three best Pixar movies.
I'm not prepared to disagree with you. I'm really not.
So then we made Cars 2, and then Brave, and now Monsters University. Those three, I think, are all. I think Cars 2, whatever. I don't even want to talk about it.
I would put Brave and Monsters University in the same category. I think, judging by anyone else's standards, they're masterpieces, and by Pixar, they're really solid.
Yep, that's right. But Up manages to be something just spectacular, and the thing about Up really is it's what happens in that first scene, man. It
sets up everything. The movie doesn't work if you don't believe the relationship that this man has lost.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's
silent.
Yes, it's
or there's
underscored with music and no dialogue.
We went to Disneyland the other night, and when you're walking around Disneyland, like, they just pipe music onto Main Street.
Yeah.
And my daughter, she just goes, Up. And it was the music from Up, and she knew it. And I was like, Father of the Year.
I was going to say, parenting, you're doing it right.
I am doing it right. There's times when I'm not sure, and then that happens, and I'm like, no, we're good.
Nope. Solid ground.
Yep,
solid footing.
Something about life.
So yeah, it doesn't actually open the movie. There is dialogue. The movie actually starts with one of the old timey newsreels that would play before the movies on a matinee, and you see the little kid Carl. I'm going to set this up, but I'm just going to go ahead and assume that everyone watching this has seen Up.
Yes. If you haven't seen Up, then this is going to waste your time.
And
we're going to talk
you're wasting
about it.
your life.
Go see
you
Up.
haven't seen Up.
Yeah.
He has like the I don't know what they're called, like the aviator's cap, right, with the goggles, and he's a little boy, and he's so excited because the newsreel is about this adventurer that he loves. And he's walking home, And through a slight little misadventure, he meets this girl who they are basically two peas in a pod, and she makes him promise to. She makes him promise. They become friends. She makes him promise to take them to Paradise Falls in South America someday. You cross your heart. And that's kind of it. And then we get this montage, and it starts with it jumps forward in time. It starts with them getting married.
Yep.
And I mean, do you want to take it from here? Do you want me to keep going?
Well, it starts with them getting married. It starts with them getting married. It
Yeah.
shows them like the house that he met her at, the abandoned house that he met her at. They buy the abandoned house that he met her at,
Yes.
and they're fixing it up. And he gets a job working as the balloon salesman at the zoo, which is I love that conceit, partially because they create a story wherein that could be a career someone has.
Right, that's a career where you can own a house.
And she, although, you know, it was old enough, you know, they were probably what? I mean, that was probably the 20s or the 30s, so, you know, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
30s, 40s?
I'd
He's
say
old,
40s.
right?
He's old, but he's old in the in like 2008, right?
Okay, yeah, you're right. So fine. So it's the 40s.
You know.
But 40s or 50s, I guess. So then it shows them living, and she works at the zoo as something like a biologist or something.
Yeah,
so they show her
something
playing
like
with the animals.
Yes.
And it shows them like just living their life and enjoying life together. They dance together. They basically have the happiest, like they're just best friends and in love. And it shows it without actually talking again. It shows them dancing. It shows them putting a house together. It shows them putting their handprints on the mailbox and painting the mailbox. And
Yeah.
and then it shows her like they're looking at clouds in the sky one day, and one looks like this and one looks like that, and then one looks like a baby. And she's like, she points at it.
Well, he does
And
it
then-
first. He's like,
Right,
that
and
one
then
looks
she
like...
points, and like all the clouds look like babies.
all the clouds become babies.
So in other words, we're gonna have all the babies.
And up to this point, this montage is just flat out adorable, right?
Right, you're just like everything is. They created the term "totes adorbs" for this scene.
It's true. That is true.
And then it shows them at a doctor's office, and it shows the doctor pointing at some sign, and basically you understand from looking at it that they're not able to have kids. And they don't say it. Again, it's not something that's said. It is, what I love about this is it's all the things that we love about silent pictures. That a story does not need words to tell the story, and it shows that.
Yeah.
And we find out that these people love each other, that they're perfect for each other, that they have a life together, that they want children, that they can't have children. And then it shows them making their lives together as two people who can't have children.
Yes.
And it shows them doing all the stuff that people do, including they have all this money that they're saving up to go to Paradise Falls that they put in this jar, and then they keep breaking the jar whenever the tire breaks or when lightning strikes and it knocks a tree into the house and they have to fix it and all of this stuff. Luckily, when a lightning strikes and it knocks a tree into your house and you have to fix a whole little area of your house, a bottle full of change will fix that. That works out amazingly. But it's that idea of like they keep putting off going, and this is another thing about the scene is it's all symbolism. It's all beautiful symbolism.
Yes.
Doesn't matter if any of this resembles anything like your real life. You buy into the emotions because they're authentic.
Yeah.
It feels real for whatever reason. So then,
And it's nothing so much as like what's the John Lennon line? Life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans.
that's it.
You know.
That's it. And so one day he looks over and he realizes they're old
Yeah.
and they don't have kids. And he looks over and he sees the picture of Paradise Falls that she painted.
As well as a picture of her as the little girl that he met.
Right, and he's like, oh man. So then it shows him buying tickets, and it shows him got tickets to Venezuela because that's where Paradise Falls is. And they're walking up a hill where they always go on picnics, and they're walking up the hill and she stumbles and falls. And then the next scene is them at the hospital, and then she dies. And then he walks back to the house alone, and I'm leaving little details out because I don't want to kill you, but
Right.
he goes back to the house alone, and then that's the end of that scene, and then the movie starts up with him being just a grumpy old so-and-so.
Grumpy old, you old poop.
And he's like, you know what it is? It's very similar to the mean old lady in Gremlins. And if you met this person on the street, you'd be like, that guy sucks. He's a jerky old man. But here's the thing. Look, all it takes is 3 minutes or 5 minutes.
Why? And you know why.
And it's like, it makes me feel like, and I'm going to get a little sappy here, but it makes me feel like when you see people on the street who just suck, and you know what? There are people who suck.
It's true.
And like, as a religious person for a living, like as a priest, I'm saying there are people who just suck. And the reality is that if you knew their story, it wouldn't necessarily make it so that they were all of a sudden good people. But you might at least go, yeah, all right.
I get it now.
Like, it ain't okay that you're not a nice person, but okay. Okay. You know?
Yeah.
You've seen things, and so you get that feeling for Carl, and you know you get it and it sets up the movie so that you're rooting for him for the rest of the time.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. So what do you want to say about it? Because I have a couple things, but what do you want to say?
I want to point out that one of the most masterful things I think about this montage is that her death. Ellie's death is categorically not the most moving thing in the montage. The death just kind of happens. You know, it just kind of happens. And I mean literally her death, like not her being in the hospital. I mean like seeing Carl at the funeral home.
Right.
Sitting there. And that is unbelievably sad because he's holding the balloon, which is sort of a symbol for their entire relationship.
Right.
And then he goes home, and that's sad. But the point that it is that part of the montage is making is, you know what, tough guy, life goes on, and that's the lesson that he has to learn throughout the entire movie. And I say that not to diminish their relationship, but to praise it, but to prop it up, because the things that are truly unbelievably heartbreaking during that thing are the scene where they can't have kids. And it is because not everyone in the world is meant to have kids. But for people who want so badly to have kids that every cloud turns into a baby. Yeah.
It's such a great symbol for that, because I mean I've known people who can't have kids or are struggling with infertility issues or trying to, and all of a sudden every single person you see is pregnant.
Right.
And if you could kick a stroller over and not get arrested, you would do it. And I mean, and I get it. Like I get it. It's one of those things where you hear these stories and you're like, and then they feel guilty about it all. That's the worst part. The level of shame and guilt that goes along with infertility is it's just mind blowing because it's somehow your fault. You can't feel that way.
As animals, it is our job to propagate the species, and if you can't, you have failed at your most important duty. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, and
I say that not blah 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 like you shouldn't feel that way. I don't think you should feel that way, but I don't blame anyone who feels that way. Obviously,
people innately believe that. I think. Most people believe they're here for a reason.
Yes.
I think people who aren't religious believe they're here for a reason.
Yes.
For a Christian, I have an inordinate amount of atheist friends. And if you're listening and you're one of my atheist friends, you know that I love you. And there are friends that would say, I don't believe we're here for a reason, but I still quite enjoy life and I don't need to have a reason. And that's fine. But I think there are the vast majority of people, if I said, are we put on earth for a reason? People would go, yes, or I hope so.
Yeah.
And I think for most people, a part of our understanding of our reason for existence is the children we make.
Yeah.
And at least, I mean, because I could tell you right now, if I did nothing else ever for as long as I lived, my daughter wins. I win. Like I did that. She is all the things that I'm the most proud of have to do with her. All of the things I'm most proud of have to do with her.
Sure.
And she was born 6 days before I was ordained to the priesthood. Guess which one was the best thing that happened to me ever of those two things?
Right. But what made my week?
Yeah, and I'm so glad because it just put my career in its place immediately. Like my career started out with this sort of like, anyways, do you see this? More important.
Right.
But so for that reason, it's very easy for people to think, well, then I guess I have failed or in this one place. And I want so badly for people not to feel that way. But it is what I love about this movie is it goes to that place. And it follows in the best of the Disney tradition, in that the best movies in the Disney tradition are not afraid to go to dark places.
Yeah.
Cinderella just starts with a dead dad.
Yeah.
And then her dad died, and here she was. And it creates that darkness. I mean, in that sense, it follows from the best traditions of Disney movies where they're not afraid to go to those places. And I find it so amazing that parents these days go, I'm not sure I'm okay with my kid watching this. And it's like, this is it, man.
Right.
When is it wrong for your kid to learn about death? When is it wrong for your child to learn about pain? I don't know. I get that we don't want them to feel it.
Right.
But I mean,
I'm really glad.
this movie delves into the darkness, and I really feel like maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe it's just the people I know, because I know a lot of educated people, and it seems like only dumb people are able to have kids every 5 seconds, and all the educated people, like something bad happens. I don't know, but I feel like I know a lot of people with fertility issues, and to some reason, this movie it's even bigger that moment because it seems like it's an epidemic of our time, or it's something that we're really noticing. Not that it's never been around; it's been around since forever, but that it's something we're paying a lot of attention to right now.
I'm really glad that you said like when is it wrong or why is it wrong for your kid to learn about death? What I think I was trying to say earlier when I said that like the actual moment of her death is not the sad thing. You don't see it. But it like the moment you find out she is dead, I guess I should say, is not the sad part. I think that's also the point, right? Like death is not the sad thing. The sad thing is not the end. The sad thing is feeling like you don't have a purpose. Where Carl feels like he has failed her because he's dusting, she's sweeping, and then he looks up and he realizes he didn't do the thing that he crossed his heart that he would do.
That's a great point. That the death is the final blow, but the death is sad.
Yep.
Because it's a death in the face of disappointment and failed expectations and things like that.
I now no longer have time to do this thing that I promised you.
Forget it.
Yeah.
I did not do for you. What have I done for you? And I feel like the movie sets itself up with her being the Spitfire and him being the galoot.
Yep.
And she just carries him along, and at some point it becomes his job, and he doesn't live up to it in his mind.
Yes.
Which it's all in his mind because she dies loving him and knowing why he's special.
Oh God, I'll tell you what is the saddest. I mean, it's tough to beat the you are infertile moment, but the saddest moment for me might be where he is. And it's sad and hopeful at the same time because Pixar is a genius. They're a collective hive mind, and that hive mind is genius.
Yep.
Where he comes to visit her. First off, again, balloons are not only a symbol for their relationship; it's a recurring motif. He ties a string to a balloon and floats it at her in the hospital, and it's just beautiful. And then he comes in, and the adventure book that she showed him, her adventure book. Adventure. It's a scrapbook. It says like my adventure book on the front. It was the thing that they bonded over because she said, "I'm going to show you something I have never shown anyone else in my entire life," which is adorable coming from like a 6-year-old or however old she is. And she says, and she is looking at it in the hospital bed, and and he's looking down, and what you can tell and what is made explicit by the end of the movie is she's thinking, I didn't fill this with the things I thought I was going to, but my life was absolutely an adventure.
Yes.
And he is looking down at it and saying, look at all of these blank pages. And they look at it together, and then she pushes it towards him, and I'm going to cry. I'm going to cry right now because it is such a beautiful.
We're only talking about the opening scene, people. Do you understand how ridiculous this movie is? And let me tell you something about the movie. It's a testament to the movie that while everyone knows about this opening scene, no one says, it's all downhill from there.
Right.
The movie lives up to this thing.
That is a minor miracle that it does that. But yes.
It lives up to it. It lives up to the hype of the film. And kids get it.
Yeah.
I know my daughter, let me tell you something, okay? The other day, my daughter was talking to my wife, and she goes, my wife was basically telling her that Grandpa was her dad. My daddy is Grandpa, you know?
Right.
And then she said something like, who's Daddy's daddy? And my wife goes, Grandpa Gary. And my daughter goes, he's bye-bye.
Yeah.
I have no idea how she knows that. Like, I have no idea how she knows that my dad's dead. I don't know. Right. She's 2.5. I don't remember having that conversation with her. Maybe I did.
Right.
But she was like, Grandpa Gary's bye-bye. What?
Yeah.
What? How does it... So we have this fear of like, well, we don't want to scare them. And it's like, no, man, like, this is the deal, you know? Like, I don't know what I'm saying, except that, like, kids can handle this stuff. And the thing that makes Pixar special is they trust children. They trust that children aren't idiots who just need to watch talking poodles. Right. Although talking cars is a little bit.
It's true.
I can't complain about that because they have Paul Newman, and it's about
That's right.
They work their tails off to make cars mean more than just talking cars. They work their tail off.
That's true.
They don't totally succeed, but they work their tails off.
Yes. I love everything you just said, and I hope this is as related outside of my brain as it is in
yeah, I know. We'll see. If not, forgive us all, people. We're a blubbering mess.
Yeah, we're a mess. This is what Pixar does to us. The thing that makes me cry the hardest in that movie after the opening montage is when he opens the door. He has had his change of heart. He opens the door, and the dog says, "Can I come in?" And he says, "Of course you can. You're my dog, aren't you?"
But first, it has the greatest line ever. I was hiding under your porch
because I love you. Right.
And I think there's a part of that. It takes that. Yeah, I know it sounds silly, but like the great thing about that dog is it's just like that dog has been nothing but like beaten down, which Carl has been nothing but beaten down.
Right. Yes.
And it like that sort of just like unconditional love of a dog. I was hiding under your porch because I love you.
Yes.
And then he's like, awesome. You know, it's like, and it's like, then of course you're my dog. Yeah, I cry. That's not the part I cry the most at.
What
not even a little bit. Oh, are you kidding me? When he gives Russell the pin at the end?
Oh, sure.
And gets down on his knee and says, I give you, for performing above and beyond the call of duty, I give you the highest honor I can bestow, the Ellie badge. I gotta stop talking right now.
So here's
because I'm gonna tell you something completely stupid.
Okay.
It took me until of watching it. I've seen it now probably 24. No, I've probably seen it about a dozen times all the way through. I've seen bits of it a lot. It took me until maybe a couple months ago to realize that Russell is Ellie.
Yeah.
That Russell functions as Ellie and helps him to become the man he needs to be, which is what Ellie was doing. Yeah. And he functions as her. And so for him to give him that, for Carl to give Russell that button, the pin, it's not just she gave it to me and I'm giving it to you because I love you, although that's true.
That's part of it.
It's also he is her. It
Right.
belongs to him. It's symbolic. It's freaking. Anyways.
Let me be clear. Let me be clear. If "You're my dog, aren't you" is where I cry the hardest, if that's a 10, the moment you just described is like a 995. You know, like it is.
I hear you. I hear
I'm
you.
a mess for that entire movie. And
For me, that scene when he gets down on his knee and says that goes to 11.
That's fair.
But go
All
ahead.
I'm telling you is this: the reason, and I can't, of course, I can't find any fault with that at all. But the reason that, I guess, the reason that I respond so much, I'm not even going to say more. The reason that I respond so much to the moment where he says,
Sure.
"You're my dog," of course, you're my dog, aren't you? Is because that is the, like, without that, the rest of his transformation isn't possible. Like,
Sure.
that is the moment. Like there is some, and of course it's done in a completely beautiful and in many ways unexpected way because Pixar is genius. But once he says that thing to the dog, the end of the movie is kind of an inevitability in the best way. In the best way.
No, you're right. You're right. That's the well, and for me, it might even be a minute before that when it's like when he gets rid of everything in the house and the chairs.
Yes.
It's just.
Well, I mean, that's not. It's a wonderful metaphor. It's not their most subtle one, right? Like you have to at some point you have to get rid of everything to make room for
this
love.
is another
You know
reason
what I
why
mean?
I love this is one of the reasons why I love cartoons and why I love Wreck-It Ralph as well. I was reading an interview with John C. Reilly about Wreck-It Ralph, and he was like, this movie's not subtle because myths aren't subtle. And he goes, I like this movie because for all of the postmodernism that we live in, he said, I think we need to tell stories where there's good and evil and where people make good choices and bad choices that change their lives. And I get to show this to my daughter and, you know, like that idea, or my kids or whatever he says. And that idea and Up, it isn't subtle. I mean, there are bits of it that can be subtle, but it doesn't need to be subtle. It's a myth. The story of Jacob and Esau isn't subtle. It's powerful.
Right.
And it doesn't need to be subtle if it can be powerful. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, subtlety is great.
Right.
But
right. I would never say no on the subtlety, but you're right. You're right.
I'm pretty sure it was the word subtlety. I was in Italy. I lived in Italy for a little bit in college, and I was taking classes, and I remember asking the teacher, how do you say subtlety in Italian? And she was like, utterly without irony, she goes, there's no word for that in Italian. And I was like, well, there you go. If you wanted an understanding of Italy, if you wanted to understand Italian culture, there you have it. She's like, that's not a thing. And no, that's not that.
That's
okay.
Amazing.
Well, okay then.
Oh, all right.
All right. So, anyways, that's neither here nor there. But that's there's no subtlety in Up. There's no subtlety, or there's not supposed to be. It works in broad images that are powerful and real and true. And there's the whole movie is like that, and that's what's so amazing about the first scene is it sets up the entire movie that way.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else to say.
I don't either, guys. Unless you are literally
we just talked for
watching...
35 minutes about 5-minute scene at the beginning of the movie.
You know what? Awesome. I could talk for another hour. Here's the deal. If you are not currently watching Up, and if you are, you're also experiencing us, and that you're not giving either one a fair shake, so stop it. If you're not currently watching Up, it's been too long since you have seen Up. So get on that, Second Breakfast Nation.
I guarantee you that sometime in the next 3 days I'll be seeing Up again because my daughter watch it.
Me too. I literally, there was like pain when I stopped the movie. I was like, I'll watch it before work, and I did, and I was like, oh, I'll watch it and I'll go to work. And I had to I stopped it, and then I was like, I'm just gonna sit here for a minute, and then I can get ready for work. Yeah.
Yep.
Guys, let us know what you think. Shoot us a comment on Facebook or YouTube or WordPress, and let us know what you think of Up and this scene in particular. It's pretty beautiful, and we'd love to hear from you. Also, you can email us at secondbreakfastpodcast@gmail.com, and that's pretty much all we've got for you today. We're Second Breakfast. I'm Andy Roth, and that's Phil Duvall. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The most important meal of the day, second breakfast.